don't know when it stopped recording, maybe just now. Okay. So on my graphing calculator, I'm going to type x minus 2 over x squared minus 9. And then if I graph that, I can see, oh, that was a terrible looking graph. Hold on a second. Yeah. So on the graphing calculator, it's going to show that middle region doing that, right? Okay, now, I mean, because you have a graphing calculator, I'm guessing they're not going to, maybe that's why they're not going to make you graph it. Who knows? But what if you didn't have, if you were taking this in class, right, you would have to plot a few points on each region. So I'm going to pick 4. So let's do h of 4. That gives me 4 minus 2 over 4 squared minus 9. So that's 2 over 16 minus 9 is 7. So what is that? That's 4, 2 sevenths is pretty close to there. So now I'm going to pick, that's a little too hard to describe, but I know this graph is going to look like a, oh God, I can't draw a curve on this thing. It's too close. It's going to look something like that. Like that. All right, so you could draw one more point if you want, but I already can figure it out because there's no other x-intercept, right? It's already above the x-axis, so it has to be a curve like that. And then for the left-hand side, I'll pick -4. So h of -4 is equal to -4 minus 2 over -4 in parentheses minus 9. So that's -6 over 16 minus 9 is 7. So that this is below the x-axis. So at -4, it's -6/7, which is a little closer to 1, -1 I mean. So that tells me this curve will look something like that. And we're done. Okay. Determine the values of x for which h of x is greater than 0. So what does it mean when an h of x is greater than 0? This means what? Above the x-axis, right? So as you can see, -infinity all the way up to -3 is below, right? And then from -3 all the way up to this x-intercept at 2, right? This is above. So I'm going to do -3 to 2, and there's no equal sign here. It's just greater than. So I have to use parentheses, right? And union, because there's a vertical asymptote, it starts from 3 all the way up to positive infinity. Okay, any questions with this page? All right. Let's move on. This is a guaranteed on the final. Piecewise function. Okay. Is that zoomed in enough, or can you not see that? Let me know if you can't see it. I'll zoom in more. So we have f of x is equal to 3 minus x if x is less than or equal to -1. So what do we do there? We have to draw this from -infinity to -1. So because this is an endpoint at -1, I'm going to put that in there. 3 minus -1 is equal to 4. So at -1, I'm going to draw a closed circle at 4, which is right there, right? And because I need 2 points to draw a line, so I'm going to draw maybe at -3. Let's see what that comes out to, or even -2. So let's do 3 minus -2. So that's equal to 5. So at -2, it's equal to 5. So now we can see this line take shape, right? It's gonna, oh my God, that was terrible. Man. So it's gonna look like this. And this arrow symbol symbolizes it going to, x is going to -infinity. So we got the first piece down. And we have the second piece here. I'm going to draw the second piece in magenta here. So we're starting at 0 for the second piece. That means 2 to the 0 minus 3 is 1 minus 3 equals -2. So at 0, I'm going to draw an open circle at -2 because there's no equal sign, right? There's no equal sign. Did someone type something? Oh no, someone joined. Okay. Now I have to draw the other endpoint, which is at 3. Okay, so 2 to the third minus 3, that's 8, minus 3 is 5. So at x equals 3, I have to draw a open circle at 5. And this is an exponential function, right? Everyone realize that, right? It's an exponential function. So therefore, it's going to be curving upwards. So I'm just going to draw maybe at x equals 1 and 2, just so that I can make my graph a little more accurate. So let's do 2 to the 1 minus 3. So that's equal to -1. So that's 1, -1. And then at 2, I have 2 to the second minus 3. That's 4 minus 3 equals +1. So now I have a really nice curve. And we're done. Okay, find f of 0. So f of 0 means I have to have an interval where it includes 0. Now, can you see, is there any interval that includes 0? That means there has to be an equal sign with the 0. There is none, correct? Therefore, you would have to write undefined for this one, right? So watch out. They can ask you something like that, and you might think it's like a trick question, but it's really just asking you whether you understand this concept or not. F of -2, so I can see the first interval would be what's used for that, right? So I already did f of -2 earlier over here, right? So this is equal to 5. Determine the interval for which f of x is increasing. So if you remember increasing, decreasing, right? This one is decreasing, and the second function is increasing. So where is it increasing? It's increasing from 0 to 3. Okay? And for increasing, decreasing intervals, it's safe to always use parentheses. Okay? So if you're not sure, when in doubt, use parentheses. All right. How are we doing so far? Is everyone okay? Are you all able to follow along okay? Who feels ready for this final? They're like ready to go. Or maybe by tomorrow they're going to be pretty confident they'll do well. Any of you? No? Oh, you feel okay about it? Yeah, that's good. Now, here's something, it's like a little iffy. My fault. Sorry about that. But anyway, let's continue. So this is what we get when you distribute. So this is minus 3x squared plus 2x minus 1. And as you can see, 3x squared cancels out with minus 3x squared. Minus 2x is plus 2x, plus 1, minus 1. And then the leftover terms are right there. So we have 6hx plus 3h squared minus 2h, right, over h. Right? I didn't write the over h earlier. Maybe I should write that here. Over h. Over h. Now, I see h is a common factor. So let me factor that out, and I get 6x plus 3h minus 2 over h. And because h is not equal to 0, you can cancel these out, and your final answer is 6x plus 3h minus 2. Okay, any questions with that? This one we don't have to worry about. Again, if you have any questions tomorrow, all the way, throughout the day, I'll periodically check my phone. So if you ask in chat for Math 111, I'll be able to, help you out there. Okay. All right. So next page. Oh shoot. The next one's simple. That one's a graphing calculator question. I expect everybody to already know how to do that. So, does anyone have questions with this number 14? Because I'm just going to skip it. Okay, moving on. Here we go. We have over here the equation. Oh, sorry. Let me move this a little bit here. Okay, the equation 9 plus 2 times the absolute value of x minus 3 is equal to 9 has how many solutions for x? So this is basically asking you to solve it, but they don't want the solution itself. They just want to know how many, right? That's kind of weird, right? But first thing you need to do is get the absolute value by itself, right? So this guy, so I'm going to subtract 9. So I have 2 times the absolute value of x minus 3 is equal to 9 minus 9 is 0. Then we can divide both sides by 2, and you get absolute value of x minus 3 is still equal to 0. Now, because it's not non-zero here, right, there's only one solution. Does that make sense? It's just x minus 3 is equal to 0, therefore x is equal to 3. Now, I want you to please know what happens if you get something like this. How many solutions are there if I give you a problem like this? Does anyone know? It's actually no solution. Why is this no solution? Can an absolute value equal a negative number? No, it cannot, exactly. Therefore, this has no solution. No value of x. You can put in any value of x. It's not going to give you the absolute value of negative, right? So if you get a problem like this, you have to say there's no solution, none, right? But if they give you a problem like this one, how many solutions are there? This one has 2 solutions, right? This one would be x minus 3 is equal to positive 6, or x minus 3 is equal to negative 6. So this would be x equals 9, or x is equal to negative 3. So you see how these two problems are very, very different from each other? And then when you have a problem where it's equal to 0, it's just one solution. Okay, those are the 3 different cases. Any questions with that? All right. Part D is kind of a question that we haven't really seen in class, so I'm going to go over it. But you should already kind of know how to figure this one out, because you're asked for the slope of 2 ordered pairs. So it's like saying this is x1, y1, x2, y2, right? So slope is what? y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So let's substitute. It's b squared minus a squared over b minus a. So the numerator is difference of squares, so this is b plus a times b minus a over b minus a. And since b minus a is not equal to 0, these cancel out, and you have b plus a, or a plus b. That was pretty easy, right? Okay, moving on. We're like flying through these. Oh, here's the question I keep bringing up to you guys, right? This is the infamous fencing problem, right? And without fail, it shows up on the final every semester. I haven't seen a single semester final not have this type of problem. So, are you all comfortable with this by now? Yes? I hope. All right, let's do it. So, we have 2 fields, right? The length of the second field is triple the length of the first. So that means this length right here is triple the length of the first, 3L. Okay? Now, in terms of total fencing, that means this represents W, this also represents W, this is L, and this is 3L. Okay, so all the solid lines surrounding the fields represent fence. Okay, so let's add all of these up. So the perimeter, or not the perimeter, the total fencing required is equal to 3W, there's 3W, oh god, that's a terrible W, plus 8L, right? That's the total fencing. So I'm going to write that here, 3W plus 8L. Okay, what's the total area for both? Well, the area, you can look at it as one large rectangle, right? So one large rectangle will be W times 4L. So the area would be 4LW. Notice I didn't take two separate areas and add them together. Although if you did that, you would get the same thing, right? Okay, let's move down now. Now that we know what we have 1,200 feet of fencing. Yeah, I see a question. Did you have a question? I saw you were typing something for a moment. I'll just continue for now. So we have 1,200 feet of fencing. So that means 3W plus 8L is equal to 1,200. Oh, okay, cool. Let's see here. We've got to rewrite the equation in terms of W only. So does everyone understand when it's in terms of W only, right? This is the total area equation. That means the area is in terms of W. So that area formula can only have W. It can't have any other letter. No L's. So I need to first figure out for the total fencing what L is equal to, right? Because the area is in W, that means L is what I have to substitute in for W. So I'm going to do 8L is equal to 1,200 minus 3W, and then divide by 8. So 1,200 minus 3W over 8. So let's see here. You could keep it like that, or you could separate this. You can write it as 150 minus 3/8 W. That's up to you. So that's what the length is equal to, right? And we said the area formula is 4LW. So instead of writing 4LW, I'm going to write 4W and then substitute my L in there that we just figured out. Just like that. So 4WL. Now I can distribute this, and 150 times 4 is 600. So this comes out to 600W, and then the 4 cancels out with the 8, so you get 3 over 2. So this is minus 3 over 2 W squared. So in other words, as a quadratic, it would look like negative 3/2 W squared plus 600 W. Is that clear for everyone? Hope that makes sense. Okay, what's the max area? So what kind of equation is this? This is our most common quadratic equation. And to find the max, that's basically just finding the vertex, right? Once we figure out what the x is of the vertex, you substitute it back in to the equation, and we solve for the max area. So let's go ahead and do that. So instead of x, W is like the x here, right? So W is equal to negative B. If you write this in order, you can easily identify B as 600, right? So negative 600 over 2 times negative 3/2. So 2's cancel out. So this is 600 over 3 is 200. See that? Now we can substitute 200 into the equation and solve for the max area. So do that on the calculator. 600 times 200 minus 3/2 times 200 squared. So 600 times 200 minus 3/2 times 200 squared. So that gives me 60,000. And what was this in feet, right? So this is feet squared. All right, let me write that here. Okay. Any questions with that? Now, this last part, D over here, is actually what gives people trouble. They said if the farmer doubled the amount of linear fencing, right, then the max area, total combined area would what? What happens to it? So if this doubles, instead of 1200, we have 2400, right? What happens? So basically, you see how, look over here, this number changes to, let me write it in a different color. This would turn into 2400. So this would be 2400 minus 3w over 8, right? And what does that mean? That means 2400 over 8 is 300. So this would change to 300 minus 3/8 w. Does that make sense? So this would be 300, and it would be 300 times 4, so this would be 1200. You see the effect that this is having over here? So what does that mean? That means my B is 1200, not 600, right? So this would be 1200 times 200, right? Minus 3/2 times the 200 squared. Does that make sense? So this would become 180,000 feet squared. So what is that? That's basically triple, right? That's triple. Okay, I know that was kind of quick, but hopefully that made sense, right? Just changing the number of feet, the effect that had. Okay. All right, let's move on. Oh, there's an easier way to do that too. Let me explain the easy way. Maybe that would be simpler here. We know the area is 4LW, right? And what was this? 4LW. So if we double this, right? We double the amount of fencing we have. So you could basically do this whole thing times 2. Let me see here. This times 2. No, actually, would that be easier? No, never mind. Forget that. Let's stick with what we just did. All right, let's move on. Oh, that's it for this one. Okay, so those were the problems from the 115 final, and now we can go over the review sheet from the 111 exercises. Did you all do this one? I know a lot of these problems are like repetitive, but it's just to cover all your bases, you know? Make sure you know every single type, although not every single type will be asked. So how many of you are have questions on like the first page over here? 6D. Okay, yeah, that's a better idea. Why don't you type in chat the problem you want me to go over, and I'll go over those in order, okay? So 6D. All right, so it says rationalize the denominator and simplify. 6D. So we're going to do this one right here. As you can see, the denominator is radicals, right? So we have to multiply by the conjugate, which is radical x minus h plus radical x over radical x minus h plus radical x. Okay, yeah, I'll do a after. So you see how I multiply by the conjugate, right? It's only the sign in between the two terms is changing to the plus. Okay, and the effect of that is it creates a difference of squares on the denominator. So as you can see in this denominator, the radicals, if you distribute this, the radical cancels out here and you get x minus h. And then the middle two terms cancel out, and then the last term is minus x. So this is what it turns into. That complicated denominator turns into x minus h minus x. And in the numerator, I'm not going to distribute this, but you see how in the denominator the x's cancel out? So the h's cancel out, right, with the numerator. So it's just 3 times radical x minus h plus radical x. You can leave it like that or distribute it. So you can write it as this as well. Whichever one, both should be acceptable. Okay. All right, number 6a. I see that it's just a single term denominator, but it's a cubed root. Cubed root means you need to have perfect cubes, right? What are perfect cubes? 1 cubed is 1, 2 cubed is 8, 3 cubed is 27. Like these are perfect cubes, right? So I have to multiply this by a cubed root of something. That'll create a perfect cube. So with 2, the perfect cube is 8. Right? You basically want it to be 8x cubed y cubed in the denominator. So what do I have to multiply 2 by? I have to multiply by 4, right? 4, and then there's x to the first, so I need 2 more x's. There's y to the second, so I need 1 more y. So you see how this multiplies in the denominator and you get cubed root of 8x cubed y cubed, which then simplifies into 2xy. Does that make sense? And then the numerator is the same as the denominator. So you have, I'm just going to skip forward here. We have 8x cubed root of 4x squared y. Right? Now, the x's cancel out, and the 8 cancels out into a 4. So your final answer should be 4 cubed root of 4x squared y over y. Okay, does that help? All right, rest of you can type in more questions in chat. While we're here, number 7, you see the absolute value problem here. How many solutions does this have? We just talked about it. Yes, 2, right? Everyone should say 2 for this one. Because it's equal to absolute value of x plus 3 is equal to 10. So anything greater than 0, then I'll have 2. Okay, not always 2. Only when it's greater than 0, it's going to have 2. Just to clarify. Okay. Are you all good with the inequalities? Number 8. Otherwise, I will skip forward. Number 12. Yes, let's do 12. So this one, let me go to the left a little bit. So this is our investment problem. Do you remember our formula for this? Does everyone remember? This is a simple interest, right? So let me use thicker ink here. Okay, so we have 2 investments. The first is a CD that earns 4%, and the other is a bond that earns 8% per year. So they're only investing this in 1 year, correct? And he invested $3,520 more in the CD than in the bond. So let's say in the bond he put X dollars in the bond, right? That means how much did he put in the CD? X plus $3,520 in the CD. Okay? Now the interest he earned total from both is 1,180 cents. Okay, so PRT, I is equal to PRT, right? So we have to do this for both. So let's see here. We have 4% for the CD, and the bond is 8%. So for the bond, it is 0.08x, right? Because time is 1 year for both, right? So this is the interest earned from the bond plus 0.04 times x plus 3520. Okay, so this is the interest from the bond plus the interest from the CD, and gives us the total interest, right, which they express down here as $1,180. So does that formula or that equation make sense to everybody? Sorry, my mouth is getting dry from all this talking. All right. So now we just distribute and figure out what this comes out to. So this is 0.08x plus 0.04x plus $140.80 is equal to 1,180. So I have to subtract $140.80 from the 1,180. And what do we get? We get 960. So this is 0.12x is equal to 960 divided by 0.12. And we get x is equal to 8,000. So how much did he invest in the CD? So the CD is plus 3,500, right? So 8,000 plus 3,520. So plus 3,520, and we get $11,520. Did that help? And this is actually, I do see this problem frequently on the final as well. Cool, let's move on. Any other questions that you want me to go through? Are you all good with these? Oh yeah, this is another example we just did from the previous final, right? This one should be easy. Let me see here. We have some difference quotient. Can we do 13, 14, and 15? Sure, what was that? Let's see. Oh yeah, sure. Okay, so for 13, let me use smaller ink here. Alright, so for 13, it says, is this a solution? So what makes something a solution? If you substitute it into the equation, right, and it comes out to be true on both sides, then you know this is a solution. So you can actually do this. You can write it as x squared minus 4x plus 5 is equal to 0, and then substitute 2 minus I, sorry. So 2 minus I squared minus 4 times 2 minus I plus 5 is equal to 0. So what does this come out to? 4 minus, what is this? 4I plus I squared minus 8 plus 4I plus 5 equals 0. Okay, so we have the 4i's cancel out. And I know I squared is negative 1, right? So I have 4 minus 1 minus 8 plus 5 equal to 0. So let's see here. This is 9 minus 9. So this is 0 is equal to 0. So it is a solution. So that's number 14. For number 15, we have to, number 14. Oh no, that's 3 minus 2i. We have to multiply by the conjugate base. So the conjugate base here is 1 minus I. 1 minus I. Remember, we're trying to create a difference of squares, difference of squares in the denominator. So in the numerator, we multiply, we get 3 minus 3i minus 2i plus 2i squared over, we have 1 minus I squared. Okay? I'm going to continue in the bottom over here. Just remember, I squared is equal to negative 1. So this is 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Okay? So 3 minus 2 is equal to 1 minus 5i over, and this is equal to negative 1, right? So minus a negative 1 means 1 plus 1, right? And we have to write this in a plus bi form. So we can't leave it like that, otherwise you get this wrong. Please be careful here. You have to separate these. So this is 1 over 2 minus 5 half I. This is your a plus bi form. Okay? And then 15, this looks like it's just quadratic formula. So quadratic formula is x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c over 2a. So let's see here. This is negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 36 minus 20 times 9 is 180 over 18. So I have negative 144 over here. So this is actually not bad because this is negative 6 plus or minus the square root of negative 144 over 18. And that's 12i. So negative 6 plus or minus 12i over 18. And we need to simplify this. The proper way to do it is by dividing 6. Or factoring 6 out is actually the proper way to do it. But you can do it in your heads, I hope, right? I would just split it up. Negative 6 over 18 is negative 1 over 3. Plus or minus, because we have to write it in a plus bi, right? 12 over 18, right? So you divide by 6, you get 2 over 3i. And there's your final answer. A plus bi. Okay, any questions about that? Okay. Let's see here. Is everyone good with the circle problem here? Equation of the circle, number 10. One of these questions is usually on the final, and 9 times out of 10, it's the one with the completing the square in it, which I don't see here. Where is it? Anyway, should we try more domain problems like number 20? Is everyone good with domain over here? Alright, let's try it then. So the first one, you have to find cut points. So you have to know this is a square root function, so 4 minus x squared greater than or equal to 0. So this factors 2 plus x, 2 minus x. So the cut points are negative 2 and positive 2. Right? And we have to do analysis. So we have a number line with negative 2, positive 2, and I'm going to test a couple of points. I'll test negative 3, 0, and positive 3. So if you plug it in to 2 plus x and 2 minus x, let's see what happens here. So negative 3, if you plug in negative 3 to the first, you get negative and positive, which is a negative interval. 0 gives you positive and positive, so this is positive. 3 gives you positive and negative, so this is negative. Therefore, what is our domain? It is negative 2, bracket negative 2 to positive 2, bracket, close bracket. And I'll do 20a after. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, not 20a, 20b. All right, here's 20b. You see how this is square root? So in a square root, I know x plus 3 over x minus 4 has to be greater than or equal to 0. Right? So first off, I know that the denominator cannot equal 0. So that means x minus 4 cannot equal 0. So x cannot equal 4. Is that clear for everyone? Okay, so what does that mean? That means it's all numbers that make this positive, 0, and greater, right? So in the numerator, I have x plus 3 is greater than or equal to 0. So x has to be greater than or equal to negative 3, right? So, oh, I'm sorry, not negative 3. Why did I do that? Hold on. Let me do that over here. Let me start back over here. Okay, so x plus 3, let's just do, okay, the numerator cut point, let me write that over here. X is equal to negative 3 is the numerator cut point, right? So on a number line, I have negative 3 and positive 4. So let's pick some numbers here. Negative 4, 0, and 5. What do we get if we plug it into x plus 3 and x minus 4? Because remember, we need to be positive, correct? Okay, so if I plug in negative 4, I get a negative and a negative, so this is actually positive. If I plug in 0, I get positive, negative, so this is negative. If I plug in 5, I get positive and positive, so this is also positive. Just remember, x cannot equal 4, correct? So that means it's from negative infinity to negative 3 inclusive union, where else? From 4, but it can't be included, to positive infinity. So that's B. And that's the work you would have to show. Any questions there? All right. And yeah, take a look at the rest of the review. See if there's anything you want me to talk about. Uh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, honestly, I don't know what to tell you because I haven't seen the final exam. But so it's just gonna be your guess is as good as mine, honestly. Yeah, yeah. But if they were to, have a place where you can type in answers, it would probably be to, type in what are the cut points, and then what for the interval for each interval is it positive or negative? Who knows? That's my guess. Yeah. So it's not gonna be like it can't be super complicated. It's just going to be, whatever number or positive or negative, and then the final answer you would have to write in interval notation. Um, yeah, I believe there are 10 essay questions where you would have to type out like the answers, kind of like the last quiz that you guys practiced on. And then for the other 30, it's multiple choice. So the multiple choice are 2 points each, and that's total of 60 points. It's just right or wrong. There's no partial credit. So yeah, so you don't have to show any work for that. So when I say show work, I'm talking about the essay questions. The boxes themselves will be the spots where show the work basically, and those are worth 4 points each. So yeah, I don't think this is gonna be, even though it's like a at home thing and it's new for everybody. Like the fact that it's multiple choice, I think already makes it easier because they can't make the questions harder to begin with, right? The questions are like the same no matter what you do to the final. They can't like pick super hard questions and just put those in there, you know what I mean? It has to be, yeah, right. As long as your class average I think has to be a certain minimum too, right? Because if you just pass the multiple choice, that's 60 points. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. All right. Any other questions you want to do? I mean, every single one of these, having a good understanding of it would be very helpful. Like even 21, right? This is something, they're not going to word it this way, but they might ask you to sketch this transformation. And are you able to do that? Right? F of x minus 2 plus 1. Hopefully everyone can do that. Right? Let me just show you real quick then. So f of x minus 2 means right 2 up 1. You all agree, right? So each point I'm going to go one by one. So this point right here, I'm going to go right 2 up 1. This next point, I'm going to go right 2 up 1. This next point here, I'm going to go right 2 up 1. You see what I mean? And then the 0, right 2 up 1. And then 2, 4 is right 2 up 1. And then this one right here, this is 4, 0 goes right 2 up 1. And then 5, 2, negative 2 goes right 2 up 1. So you see it doesn't change the shape. It still carries the same shape because the entire graph is moving right 2 up 1. Right? So stuff like that. Usually they make you sketch that, but maybe they'll give you a multiple choice with 4 different graphs and you have to pick the right graph. Kind of like what we did in the other final exam. All right? All right, so how are you all feeling so far? Are you okay? Yes, the negative before f means you multiply the y's by f. So over here, negative f of x plus 2. So here's the easy way to do it. So the 0, I'm calling out the y here. For negative 4, the y is 0, so you multiply 0 by negative, it's still 0, right? And then you go up 2, right? And then for this one, you reflect it and you go up 2. This one, you go reflect it and then you go up 2. 0, up 2. So 2, 4, you reflect that, it becomes 2, negative 4, and then it goes up 2. And then for 5, negative 2, you reflect it, and then you go up 2. So this one looks a little different, but it's a reflection over the axis, and then up 2. Hopefully that makes sense, right? All right, I think we covered the majority of the topics. You all know how to do the piecewise, right? Again, for the piecewise, make sure you do the ones with the parabolas. I think something like 24 and 25 are the best ones to work with. Honestly, 25 is the one I would put on the final if I or the creator. Let's see. Are you all, yeah, you guys are all good with this composite function stuff, right? Oh, here, number 16. We didn't talk about this, so let's just talk about it real quick. We have f of x is the straight line, and then g of x is the curve, right? So they want to know what f of g of 2 is, f plus g of 2. So that just means f of 2 plus g of 2. So f of 2 is 4, so that's 4 plus g of 2 is negative 4. So that's equal to 0. Not bad, right? What about the next one? F of g of 1. So I need to figure out what g of 1 is first. So g of 1 is equal to negative 5. So now I do f of negative 5, which is negative 3. Not bad, right? Find the intervals of x where g of x is greater than f of x. So what does that mean? It means I have to first find where they intersect. These are the points they intersect, right? At x is equal to negative 2, right, and 5, right? So g of x is above f of x from negative infinity to negative 2, right? In parentheses because there's no equal sign, union, and where else? From 5 to infinity. So that one wasn't too difficult, but you do have to just, understand it. All right. I think we pretty much got all the important stuff.